Howdy-ho, Stampers, Deb Valder, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm here to show you how to use the Scallop Tag Topper Punch. I used it on the bottom of this card, and it's a really easy, fun way to use the Tag Topper Punch out of its real element. So let me just show you how I did the card. I started off with an 11 by 4 1/4 inch piece of cardstock for my base, and then my white piece for the top I cut at 5 by 4. So that's what I started with. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm just going to center it side to side, and I'm going to push it all the way down to the bottom. So it's centered here and here, and then I pushed it all the way down to the bottom. Now we're going to take our tag topper punch, and we're just going to slide it in here. Now remember, you're going through 2 layers of cardstock, so it's going to be a little bit more snug, but not too bad. And we're just going to center it. We're just going to eyeball this one. We're not going to put any tick marks like I did on part 1, but this is part 2. And I'm just kind of centering it eye to eye. I'm cutting both pieces at the same time, so it's not going to be bad. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and I'm going to punch it. It's pretty easy. It goes all the way through with no problems. And then we just slide it back out again. And that's all we need the punch for. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to cut off these pieces right here. Just like we did in our part 1, we're going to cut off the same pieces. Now I like to do these separately just so that I make sure that I get them nice and straight. And what I did was, remember there's a gully in our cutter, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cardstock and I'm going to take these little notches and I'm just going to line them up in the gully. And I do that by just putting my cutter in there and then pushing this side in so that I know I'm at the very end of the gully. Okay? And then I'm just going to lift it up. I'm going to go down to this one and do the same thing. And those pieces just come out nicely. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it to the white piece. Again, here's my gully. I'm going to slide this over until I get to what I think is the end. I'm going to slide it in there, and then I'm just going to push this so that I know it's to the end. Lift it up. Bring it down, and we're good to go. All right. Now these are all cut off, and we know that these 2 pieces are going to match when I line them up because I cut them. I punched them at the same time. So now what we're going to do, before I glue these together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that pretty bevel on the bottom, which looks like this. Let me just show you. It's this pretty bevel right here on the bottom. And I did that with my Simply Scored Borders plate. So I take out my Simply Scored tool, and this is going to be hard to do, but I'm going to try to show you on my video. I took out my Simply Scored border plate, and then what I did was I just lined up my piece of paper by putting it in here. Let's see. I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to line it up with, this one happens to just be lined up with this border right over here. But you can just eyeball it and make sure it's nice and straight. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our stylus. I want to make sure it's centered from side to side and that this goes right down the middle. And then I'm just going to take my stylus tool and I'm going to just run it across this piece right here. So I'm just going to take and run it just like this. Very easy. But it just gives it that extra little pizzazz. So that's all I have to do for here. Now let me just show you one thing. And that just makes my nice little border part. I want to just show you one thing. This is a piece that comes with the Simply Scored Borders plate. But when you're putting your borders plate onto your Simply Scored tool, you want to just make sure that this arrow is pointing up. No matter what plate you use, just make sure that the arrow is pointing up, and that way there you know that you're going to get a good score, no matter whether you're using this plate or the diagonal plate. Make sure that score tool is up. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to assemble our card, and we're going to do that by taking our piece that we just did, and we're going to stamp on it first. So the card that we're doing happens to use a really pretty simple stem stamp set, and I'm using the wood mounted one. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to stamp my flower, and this is repetitive stamping. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this, ink it up, and stamp it toward the top, and then stamp again and one more time. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add the stems to that. I'm going to use Wild Wasabi. That was Blushing Bride. Now I'm going to use Wild Wasabi, and I'm just going to take and add the stems to it. And I like to do this upside down when I'm using my wood blocks, and that way there I can get them lined up just perfectly. And then what I want to do is not re-ink it. I just want to take and I want to stamp it again and again. Okay, so there I have my stamps. And then I pre-stamped and cut out a flower, and we're going to add that at the end to the top of the card. So what I need to do now is to grab my base at the bottom, my bottom piece, and we're just going to glue these together. And the way I do that is to, let me just show you here, add my snail, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add that to the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is just make sure that that little hole is covered up. So I'm going to center it side to side, make sure that little hole is covered up, and lay it down. I also cut a little tiny piece for the top, and this is where your silicone mat comes in really handy. You're going to take this and we're going to snail this, and what's nice about the silicone mat, which everybody needs one, alright, what you need to do is to just take and layer this on the top like this, and it just makes it look a little bit more layered. It's all about the layering. Okay, and then on the front part of it, I'm going to take and I'm just going to add my ribbon. And on the inside, we're going to take, and we're going to put our wild wasabi, and then we're going to take, and the wild wasabi is 5 1/4 by 4, and this one is 3 3/4. No, this one's actually 4 by 4. No, 3 3/4 by 4. And then that's the inside of it. And when you're all done and you've got your little flower popped on the top, this is what it looks like. So I hope you enjoyed my post. If you have any questions, ask. Hop on over to my blog, and have a great day. Take care.